I'm Jerry Purvis for StarHerald.com. Welcome to another edition of Table Talk. Our guest today is Jennifer Reisig, race director for the 9th annual Monument Marathon. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Jerry.
Okay, can you tell us, first off, give us a little background information on the history of the marathon, who were the title sponsors, and how did you get all of this going?
Well, that happened before me, but the previous WNCC Foundation director started the Monument Marathon as a fundraiser for WNCC. So the proceeds from the marathon support student scholarships, and that was the goal in the beginning, is to have that support for student scholarships and bring an event to the Valley that really could promote tourism, promote a healthy lifestyle, and show off the beauty of the area. And at the very beginning, Platte Valley Companies was part of it, our race crew, steering team. It took a lot of people to get this to where it is today and to really put all those pieces in place that now we continue, hopefully as well as they did it at the beginning.
Okay, at a time when many of the larger marathons are being canceled, like the Boston Marathon, which was, how did the steering committee decide we're going to go ahead with this?
Well, in March, when we all moved to working remotely, we started meeting more often as a steering team. Usually we meet monthly, but we started meeting every other week so that we could really talk about what was happening. And as things were changing, as we know, in March, things changed minute to minute. And so we really wanted to keep on top of that and talk about what was happening. And as the conversations went on in March, that's usually when registrations for the Monument Marathon really take off. And they didn't at all. Registrations just flatlined, and we didn't get very many more until into April. So we looked at registrations, we looked at sponsorships, and we looked at, can we be safe with current directed health measures? Thankfully, as we got into May, our registrations really started to take off. We were able to change our refund policy a little bit so that runners were comfortable. If we do have to cancel, or if we were going to have to cancel because of COVID, they wouldn't be out their registration. So that was one change we made. And I think runners really started to become comfortable that they could come, we could social distance and be safe and still have this race.
So what are some of the safety precautions you're going to be observing for the marathon?
They're not set in stone yet because, again, things are changing moment to moment. We are working with Panhandle Public Health, and we are looking at the directed health measures at the time. So as of right now, our tentative plan is to social distance at the expo, to recommend face coverings. In fact, we are providing face coverings for all of our registered runners as well as all volunteers. And I'll show you an example of one. So this is one that Platte Valley Companies had purchased for the Cheyenne Marathon a few years ago, and this is an item that is an item a lot of runners like to use in cold weather, or people like to use it if they are out in dusty or windy conditions. So it's something that can be used not just as a face covering during this time. So I'm gonna demonstrate it. And the ones we've ordered are orange and blue, which are the marathon colors, and they have the marathon logo right on the top where I'm pulling it up over my face. So like that, it's very easy to wear, easy to pull up. If you're close to someone at the expo or close to someone at the start line, as you can hear, it's easy for me to talk through it. But then, when I don't need it anymore, I can pull it down. And then it's something runners can use beyond the race, volunteers can use beyond the race, and it'll have our marathon logo right on it. Runners who want to use it at the start and at the finish, they can take it and just twist it around their wrist, stick it in a pocket or a bag. They could drop it at the start in their gear drop and get it again at the finish. So lots of different options, and we just felt that this was a good way for us to provide some safety to runners, and we really do encourage our runners and our volunteers to wear this. The other thing that we're looking at is a staggered start of the start lines. So we're working with the timing company to find the best way to do that, and social distancing on the buses to shuttle runners from the Five Rocks where runners park to the start of the full marathon. Another thing we have considered, we haven't determined if we are doing this yet or not, but in our tentative plan is symptom checks when runners check in at the expo. And we also, it's been recommended to us by Panhandle Public Health that we offer a race deferment to 2021 or a refund to runners who are symptomatic. You know, maybe there's a runner in New York who plans to come and the week before they become symptomatic. We don't want them to feel like they're going to lose out on their money if they don't come. So some of those are the suggestions and things we've worked with Panhandle Public Health. And it'll just depend as we get closer what's in place at the time.
Right. Okay, when is the marathon coming up? And give us a little information on the rundown of the day, when it starts and
Okay.
things.
So the marathon is on September 26th. So we've got about 12 weeks from right now until the marathon. I guess leading up to it, we've got a lot of things as far as getting ready for the expo, getting volunteers in place. On Expo Day, all of the runners come to the expo to pick up their race bags, and we'll adjust things if needed. And then on race day, we're out there by 4 a.m. getting all set up and ready to go. Sponsors, volunteers, the entire community really need to come together to make this happen.
Okay, you mentioned the timing people. What are some of the organizations that help you with the technical end of it, timing and sanctioning groups for
Okay.
runners?
USATF is a national sanctioning group for races, and USATF sanctioned and certified races are qualifiers for Boston Marathon. And there's a lot of runners who really want to qualify for Boston. Ours is a Boston qualifying race. Our timing company is Running Underground. It's a timing company out of Colorado. I hate naming names because I'm going to miss somebody, but there's many different people that work together to make this happen. But we've hired some professionals like Racing Underground because they're used to managing race timing at races all over. They're especially in Colorado and the outlying areas, but they are the experts in making sure that the timing of the race goes well. And that is key to runners qualifying for Boston.
You mentioned about qualifying for Boston. With no Boston Marathon this year, would they qualify for next year?
Yes, they would qualify for next year. Boston Marathon is usually in April, early May, or I guess mid-April. So they would qualify for next year's race, assuming that next year's race happens.
Okay. So then you started out with the marathon and the half marathon. Later you added a 5K event. How did that come about?
You know, I was not the foundation director at the time, but I believe it was felt that a race there was a distance that needed to be a little shorter than that full and that half marathon. A lot of people aren't really that interested in running a 13-mile or a 26-mile race, but wanted something a little shorter and still to be able to support the Monument Marathon and WNCC students and really see the beauty of Mitchell Pass and the Bluff. So while the 5K runners don't go through Mitchell Pass, they do go toward it and then they turn off. And they finish at the same place that the other three distances do. That was added to the race. This is the 5th year of the 5K.
Okay. So tell us a little about the support you receive from the community. I know when I go out, I see what I call the pink ladies that are there in their pink wigs and their cowbells and just cheering the runners on.
Yeah, we could not do this race without the support of the entire community. From cheering on race day, some people cheer from their front steps as runners go past. There's a few places where they go through neighborhoods. We have people that work at aid stations. We have people that help us with safety all over the place. It takes about 300 volunteers to make this race happen. Typical runner registration for us is around 500, and so you can see that it really takes almost as many volunteers as we get runners to make this happen.
So you mentioned a number of runners and also volunteers that have stepped up to register so far.
So far this year, as of July 6th, we have 201 runners registered. Typically, around the beginning of July, we would have maybe 240 or 250. So we're not quite as many as we would normally be at this time, but that's really to be expected this year. The majority of our registrations are from Nebraska, Colorado, and Wyoming, which is still typical, but we also have runners from 20 states currently registered. Virginia, we've got Florida, Arizona, New York, and many other places.
I know in the past you've had some runners from other countries, Canada, Germany. That won't be the case this year.
Not unless they want to come into Scottsbluff County and quarantine for 14 days before they would run the race. And that is, right now, that is the national directed health measure, is to quarantine when coming from outside of the country. If that were to change, then we could potentially take international registrations.
Okay, so runners in the past, what have they had to say about the area, about the marathon itself, how it's organized, anything they've...
We've gotten so much positive feedback from runners throughout the years, just about the friendliness of our community, the beauty of the area, the expertise of the volunteers and of the race personnel, and just that it is a race that people really need to run. And you know, even just in the last couple days, I heard some great feedback in Facebook. I got some emails from runners. They're so excited that we're going to have this race. They're sharing the information with their friends. Runners who have run it before are telling their friends, this needs to be on your bucket list. Do this race this year. So it's really encouraging to hear that. And also, we know that that's a reason we need to keep doing this as well as it has been done since the beginning.
So you're getting a lot of repeat customers, as it were.
We do. As of right now, with our registrations, we have about 25% repeat and about 75% who are new to the Monument Marathon.
Yeah. Okay, so how, you mentioned about registration, how it's going. How, if you want to volunteer or run, how do you get registered?
So go to monumentmarathon.com, and that's where you can register. It's where you can see our list of sponsors. There's an FAQ page there. There's a Get Involved tab. That tab takes you to the volunteer sign up, and you can pick your t-shirt size, agree to our waiver right out there on the website. For runners, there's an information page on race distances, and there is a register button on the bottom of every page on the website. So that is the best way to get registered.
So the marathon is in support of the foundation at Western Nebraska Community College. Tell us a little about that and your involvement with the college.
Okay, I'm the director of the WNCC Foundation, and so the race is our major annual fundraiser each year since 2012, and it raises funds in support of student scholarships. And you know, we know that especially right now, especially the challenges that students are having with the pandemic and just the fact that education is expensive, that this is vital to helping students just really get ready for the workforce. And about 73% of WNCC students stay in the area. So we are helping students to be able to be trained to be our workforce here locally.
So it helps with the scholarships for the college, okay?
It does.
And comments you've heard from the students about being able to continue their education because of financial help that they receive.
It is vital to students being able to continue. There are many students with financial need that may be covered by Pell Grants, but there are many students that are not Pell eligible, but they still really have a lot of financial need. And we are able to step up and we are able to help the students in those areas so that they really have a chance to get the education that they want and need.
Okay, that's Monument Marathon, and it's coming up again when?
September 26th. We really want everybody to register before September 1st if possible. That's t-shirt cutoff date, and we'll get our supplies all ordered by then.
Okay. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Jerry, for having me.
I'm Jerry Purvis for StarHerald.com, and thank you for joining us for Table Talk.